Taeho Kim stood in the center of the massive council chamber. His dark suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and strange forms of the alien representatives around him. The chamber was huge, with seats rising up in circles like an old theater. Light came from crystals floating in the air, casting rainbow colors on the walls. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 12 years. 12 long years of being treated like a child by beings who thought humans were too young and stupid to matter. Today, that would end. The Velkari representative clicked her crystal fingers together. She was tall and thin, made of what looked like living glass. Her voice sounded like wind chimes when she spoke. Human Taeho, you will listen to our decision. Earth will lose its voting rights in the Council. Your military ships must be given to us for proper control. Around the chamber, other aliens nodded. The Nethys moved as one group, their gray bodies swaying together like grass in wind. The old Corvani sat still, their wrinkled blue skin showing no emotion. The snake-like Skreth hissed their agreement. Taeho did not move. He had expected this. For months, the aliens had been talking about the human problem. They said humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to have real power in the galaxy. We have decided, the Velkari continued, that humans need guidance. You are still children playing with tools you do not understand. We will take care of your weapons and ships. This is for the good of all. A few human diplomats in the lower seats looked angry. Taeho could see his aide, Youngmin Park, clenching his fists. But Taeho remained calm. He had been waiting for this moment. I see, Taeho said quietly. His voice carried well in the chamber. You believe we are children? Yes, the Velkari said. Young and reckless. This is not an insult. All species must learn. Taeho nodded slowly. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple communicator, but it was much more. Dr. Haejin Park, Earth's best scientist, had built it specially for this day. You call us children, Taeho said, his voice getting stronger. You say we are too dangerous to be trusted. You want to take our ships, our weapons, our right to speak as equals. The aliens shifted in their seats. Some looked bored. They thought this was just another human complaint. For 200 years, Taeho continued, humans have served in this council. We have built your communication networks. We have maintained your power systems. We have solved problems you could not fix. And how do you repay us? The Corvani elder, Mordan, spoke in his deep voice. Humans have been useful, but usefulness does not mean wisdom. You are still too young to lead. Taeho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Too young to lead, too dangerous to trust, too aggressive to have power. He held up the device. Very well. You have made your choice. He pressed a button. Nothing happened at first. The aliens looked at each other, confused. Then, one by one, lights began to dim throughout the station. The floating crystals flickered. Display screens went dark. Dr. Haejin Park sat in his lab on Earth, watching screens filled with data. The signal had reached every human-built system in the galaxy. All across space, human technology was shutting down. Communication relays went silent. Defense platforms powered off. Ships stopped moving. The aliens had never realized how much they depended on human engineering. For 2 centuries, humans had quietly become the ones who fixed things, who built things, who made things work. Now, all of that was ending. In the council chamber, emergency lights came on. The beautiful crystal lighting was gone. The Velkari representative's voice was shrill with panic. What have you done? We have honored your wishes, Taeho said calmly. You wanted us gone. You said we were too dangerous, so we are leaving. Alarms began to sound. The station's artificial gravity flickered. Air recycling systems stuttered. The Nethys Collective began to panic, their shared mind disturbed by the failing systems. This is madness, the Corvani elder shouted. You cannot simply leave. Can we not? Taeho asked. You have just stripped us of our voting rights. You demand control of our military. You treat us like dangerous children. Why would we want to... Stay? The snake-like Skreth representative slithered forward. Your actions prove our point, human. You are too aggressive, too quick to violence. Tae-ho laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Violence? We have not fired a single shot. We have not attacked anyone. We are simply taking our toys and going home as you wished. More systems failed. The translation devices that let all species understand each other began to glitch. The climate controls stopped working. The artificial day-night cycle went dark. Stop this, the Velkari demanded. Repair the systems. No, Tae-ho said simply. Find someone else to fix your problems. We are too young and stupid, remember? Captain So-Ra Lee was commanding a human cargo ship near the outer rim when the signal reached her. She had been delivering supplies to a mixed colony world. Her communications officer, a young man named Wu Jin, looked up from his console. Captain, we just got the Exodus signal. So-Ra nodded. She had been expecting this for months. All human personnel return to the ship immediately. We leave in 1 hour. The alien colonists were confused when the humans suddenly packed up and left. They did not understand yet what was happening. But they would learn soon enough. Back on Nexus Prime, the council chamber was in chaos. Half the systems had failed. The beautiful station that had been the center of galactic government for 1,000 years was falling apart. You are destroying everything, the Nethys Collective screamed as one. We are destroying nothing, Tae-ho replied. We built these systems. We maintained them. Now we are taking them with us. What you do with what remains is your choice. The Velkari was trying to access her own systems, but they were all linked to human networks. Nothing worked. This is blackmail. This is consequences, Tae-ho corrected. You made a decision. We are making one too. On Earth, President Mi-sun Kang watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Human colonies were securing themselves. Human ships were pulling back. Human citizens were leaving alien worlds. Protocol Exodus was working perfectly. Admiral Jin Woo-nam commanded the human fleet from his flagship. He had been waiting for this day. For years, he had watched alien politicians insult and dismiss humanity while depending on human protection. Now, they would learn what it meant to stand alone. All ships, he broadcast to the fleet. Maintain defensive positions around human colonies. Do not engage unless directly attacked. Let them solve their own problems now. In the council chamber, Tae-ho began to walk toward the exit. The alien representatives called after him, their voices desperate now. Wait, the Corvani elder called. We can negotiate. Tae-ho stopped and turned. Negotiate what? You have already decided we are unfit for membership. You want to control our military. You dismiss our contributions. What is left to discuss? We may have been hasty, the Velkari admitted. Hasty. Tae-ho's voice was cold. For decades, you have called us children. You have blocked our proposals, ignored our warnings, and treated our people as second-class citizens. This was not hasty. This was inevitable. The lights flickered again. The station shuddered as more systems failed. Without human maintenance, the ancient station was dying. Please, the Nethys Collective begged. Fix the systems. We will discuss terms. No, Tae-ho said firmly. We tried discussion. We tried cooperation. We tried being good members of your council. You repaid us with contempt. He smiled coldly. You wanted to see what happens when humans are not here to fix your problems. Enjoy the lesson. He walked out of the chamber, followed by all the other human diplomats. Behind them, the aliens shouted and pleaded, but the humans did not look back. As Tae-ho's ship left Nexus Prime, he looked out at the dying station. Lights were going out all across its surface. Ships were trying to leave, but many could not get their engines started. The mighty Galactic Council, center of civilization for a millennium, was becoming a tomb. Sir, young Min asked quietly, do you think they will survive? Tae-ho watched the station grow smaller behind them. Some will. The smart ones will learn to fix things themselves. The others, he shrugged. They made their choice. Dr. Hae-jin Park's final report was simple. Every human-built system in the galaxy had been successfully shut down or removed. The galaxy's infrastructure was collapsing, and there was nothing the aliens could do to stop it. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity as too young, too aggressive, too dangerous. Now they would learn what danger really looked like. Not from human weapons, but from human absence. The cosmos was about to fall apart, and it had no one to blame but itself. 3 months had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Captain Sora Lee stood on the bridge of her colony ship, watching the stars through the viewport. Her ship, the New Soul, was carrying human families to a new world far from alien. Space! Captain, her communications officer called. We are getting strange signals from the trade routes. Sora walked over to look at the displays. The main shipping lanes that connected different parts of the galaxy were almost empty. Before humans left, these routes were busy with thousands of ships carrying goods between worlds. Now, only a few. Ships moved slowly through space. What happened to them all? Asked her navigator, a young woman named Hei Young. They cannot talk to each other anymore, Sora explained. The communication networks were built by humans. Without us to maintain them, the networks are breaking down. On the display, they could see a Valkyrie merchant ship floating dead in space. Its crystal hull was dark. Sora knew that Valkyrie ships needed special quantum amplifiers to work properly. Those amplifiers were human inventions. Without them, Valkyrie technology was almost useless. Should we help them? Hei Young asked. Sora was quiet for a moment. Part of her wanted to help. Humans had always helped others. But she remembered the words of the Galactic Council. Humans were too dangerous, too aggressive. They did not want human help. No, Sora said finally. They made their choice. Far away on the world of Karathi, Governor Byung-ho Choi was dealing with a different problem. Thousands of alien refugees were coming to his colony every day. They came in broken ships, asking for help. Byung-ho stood in his office, looking out at the refugee camps that had grown around the human settlement. The camps were full of different alien species. Valkyrie families huddled together, their crystal bodies dim without proper power sources. Nethys individuals wandered around looking lost and confused. His assistant Min Jung brought him a report. Sir, we now have over 50,000 refugees. They keep coming. What do they want? Byung-ho asked, though he already knew the answer. Basic services, power, water, food processing, medical care. Their own settlements have stopped working. Byung-ho nodded. Human colonies had been built to be independent. They had their own power plants, water systems, and food production. But alien settlements had always depended on the galactic network for these things. When humans left, that network collapsed. Can we support so many refugees? Min Jung asked. We have enough resources, Byung-ho said. But should we use them? These are the same aliens who called us children, who said we were too dangerous to be trusted. A message appeared on his desk screen. It was from a Korvani elder on Karathi's main city. The message was desperate. The elder was begging for human help to restore power to the city. Without power, millions of Korvani would die. Byung-ho deleted the message without answering. On the research station, Harmony, Dr. Young-Mi Han was watching something that no one had ever seen before. The Nethys hive mind was breaking apart. For thousands of years, the Nethys had shared one collective consciousness. All Nethys individuals were connected to each other through their minds. They thought together, acted together, lived as one giant organism. But now, that connection was failing. The neural stabilizers are offline, Young Mai told her research team. Without them, the Nethys cannot maintain their shared consciousness. The neural stabilizers had been a human invention. They were small devices that helped strengthen the psychic connections between Nethys individuals. The aliens had never realized how important they were. They thought the stabilizers were just helpful tools. They did not know the devices had become necessary for their survival. What happens to them now? Asked her assistant, a young scientist named Dong Hyun. Young Mi pointed to the observation deck. Through the transparent walls they could see Nethys, individuals on the station. Before they had moved together smoothly, like dancers following the same music. Now they stumbled around, bumping into each other. Some sat on the floor, holding their heads and making strange crying sounds. They are becoming individuals for the first time in their species' history, Young Mi explained. Their minds cannot handle it. One Nethys came to the observation deck window. It pressed its gray hand against the glass and stared at Young Mi with wide, frightened eyes. For the first time in thousands of years, this Nethys was alone in its own head. Young Mi felt sorry for the creature, but she did not help. The Nethys had voted to remove human rights in the council. They had supported the decision to control human military forces. Now they would learn what it meant to live without human support. On Earth, President Mi Sun Kang was reading reports from across the galaxy. Each report told the same story. Alien civilizations were falling apart without human technology and support. The Velkari Empire, once proud and advanced, could only communicate across 30% of their territory. Their beautiful crystal cities were going dark one by one as power systems failed. The Corvani military, which had ruled much of the galaxy for centuries, found that half their weapons did not work without human maintenance. The galactic economy was crashing. Without human-managed shipping networks, trade between worlds had almost stopped. Planets that depended on imported food were facing starvation. Worlds that sold raw materials had no way to reach their customers. "How long can this continue?" asked her advisor, General Park Soo-jin. "The aliens are stubborn," Mi-sun replied. "They will try to fix things themselves before admitting they need us. That could take years." "And if they cannot fix things?" Mi-sun looked out her office window at the bustling city below. Earth was thriving. Without the restrictions of the Galactic Council, human technology was advancing faster than ever. New inventions appeared every week. The human colonies were growing strong and independent. "Then they will learn that calling us children was a mistake," she said. Admiral Jin Woo-nam was patrolling the borders of human space with his fleet. His ships moved easily through the void, their engines humming with power. Unlike alien vessels, human ships did not depend on galactic networks. They were self-sufficient. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving distress calls from 17 different alien fleets. They are requesting immediate assistance." Jin Woo looked at the tactical display. Alien ships were stranded all across the region. Some had lost power. Others could not navigate without the galactic positioning system. A few were under attack by pirates who knew the aliens could not call for help. "What are your orders, sir?" asked his second-in-command, Captain Yoo-jin Kim. Jin Woo was quiet for a long time. As a military officer, his instinct was to help anyone in distress. But he also remembered the insults and dismissals humans had endured for decades. "Send a message to all alien vessels," he finally ordered. "Tell them that human military forces are too dangerous and unpredictable to provide assistance. Suggest they contact the Galactic Council for help." "But, sir, the Council cannot respond. Their communication networks are down." "Exactly," Jin Woo said with a cold smile. Back on Karathi, the situation was getting worse every day. The alien refugees were desperate. Their own governments could not help them because those governments were falling apart too. Governor Byung-ho received another message. This time it was from the Velkari Chancellor herself. She offered to trade rare crystal technology for human assistance. It was an incredible offer. The crystals were worth more than entire planets. Byung-ho showed the message to his council. "What do you think?" "The crystals would be very valuable," said his economic advisor. "We could use them to build better technology." "But accepting would mean helping them," pointed out his security chief. "Are we ready to do that?" Byung-ho thought. About all the times aliens had dismissed human contributions. How they had called humans too young to understand galactic politics. How they had tried to take control of human military forces. "Send a reply," he decided. "Tell the Chancellor that we will consider her offer in 10 years when we have time to think about it." The refugees outside his settlement continued to suffer. Their numbers grew every day, but Byung-ho hardened his heart. The aliens had made their choice when they expelled humanity from the Council. On the research station, Dr. Young Mi-han made a disturbing discovery. The breakdown of alien civilizations was accelerating. It was not just communication networks and power systems. The aliens were losing knowledge itself. For centuries, most technical knowledge had been stored in galactic databases maintained by human technicians. When the humans left, those databases became inaccessible. Alien engineers found themselves unable to fix even simple problems because they had forgotten how to do basic repairs. "They became too dependent on us," Young Mi explained to her team. "They let humans handle all the difficult technical work. Now they cannot function without us." The Corvani, who had once ruled a mighty empire, could not repair their own warships. The Velkari, masters of crystal technology, had lost the knowledge to grow new crystals. The Nethys, with their collective intelligence, found that their shared knowledge was stored in human-maintained databases. Entire civilizations were reverting to primitive conditions. Worlds that had been spacefaring for millennia were losing the ability to travel between stars. 6 months after humans left the Galactic Council, Chancellor Veltar of the Velkari stood in what remained of the council chamber. The beautiful floating crystals were gone, replaced by harsh electric lights that hurt her crystal eyes. Half. The seats were empty because many species could no longer travel to the station. "We must call the humans back," she said to the remaining representatives. Her voice, once musical like wind chimes, now sounded cracked and desperate. Hive Prime Zethnos of the Nethys tried to respond, but his collective voice was broken. Many Nethys individuals had lost their connection to the hive mind. Now he spoke, with only a fraction of his former power. "The humans, they have gone too far," he said, his words coming slowly and painfully. "This is not withdrawal. This is revenge." The Corvani elder, Mordan, slammed his fist on the table. His once proud species was falling apart. Their mighty warships floated, dead in space. Their ancient empire was crumbling world by world. "We gave them a place in our council," he growled. "We taught them the ways of galactic civilization. This is how they repay us?" But even as he spoke, Mordan knew he was lying. The humans had not learned from the aliens. The humans had been teaching them. For 2 centuries, human engineers had kept galactic civilization running while alien politicians took the credit. Commander Do-hyun Park led a small human scouting fleet through what had once been Corvani space. His mission was simple: observe and report. Do not interfere, do not help. Just watch and learn. What he saw shocked even him, though he had expected things to be bad. On the world of Kethmora, once a proud Corvani military base, the orbital defense, platforms hung dark and lifeless. The planet's shield generators, which had protected it for 1,000 years, were offline. Pirate ships moved freely in the system, raiding defenseless colonies. "Sir," his sensor operator reported, "we are detecting massive energy signatures in the Skreth border regions. It looks like they are moving their fleets." Do-hyun nodded grimly. The Skreth were the galaxy's most aggressive species. They had been held in check for centuries by Corvani military might and Council peacekeeping forces. But now the Corvani were defenseless, and the Council had no power to stop anyone. "The Skreth see an opportunity," Do-hyun said to his bridge crew. "They know the Corvani cannot fight back." His communications officer looked up from her station. "Commander, we are receiving distress calls from Admiral Cordan of the 3rd Corvani Fleet. He is requesting immediate human assistance. His ships are under attack, and his weapons systems are failing." Do-hyun had served with Cordan during joint operations years ago. The Corvani admiral was a decent being, brave and honorable. It pained Do-hyun to ignore his call for help, but orders were orders. "No response," Do-hyun said firmly. "Continue monitoring." On his screen, he watched Corvani ships exploding under Skreth fire. The proud 3rd Fleet, once the terror of pirates and rebels, was being destroyed by enemies they could have easily defeated just months ago. His crew watched in uncomfortable silence. Humans had always been the ones to help others. It felt wrong to do nothing, but they remembered the words of the Galactic Council. Humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable. The Council did not want human help. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoon-ji Ko was analyzing data from across the galaxy. Her computers processed thousands of reports from human observers, refugees, and automated monitoring systems. The picture they painted was terrifying. "President Kang," she said as she entered the Oval Office, "I have completed my analysis of the galactic collapse." President Mi-sun Kang looked up from her desk. She was reading reports from human colonies, all of which were doing well. Human settlements were growing, prospering, and developing new technologies. It was a sharp contrast to the chaos in alien space. "What is your conclusion, Doctor?" the president asked. "Complete systemic failure within 2 years," Yoon-ji said, bluntly. "The alien governments will collapse entirely. Most of their populations will die from warfare, system failures, or simple inability to maintain basic life support. She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red zones indicated areas where civilizations had already failed. Yellow zones showed places where collapse was imminent. Green zones marked human space, which was stable and growing. Look at the progression, Yunji pointed to the display. The Velkari Empire has lost contact with 70% of its worlds. The Corvani military cannot maintain their ships. The Nethys collective has fractured into millions of confused individuals. And the newer species? The president asked. Worse. The younger civilizations depended entirely on galactic infrastructure. When we shut it down, they had no backup systems. Some worlds have already reverted to pre-industrial conditions. The president studied the display. She felt no joy at seeing the suffering, but she also felt no guilt. The aliens had chosen this path when they decided humans were unfit for partnership. Any attempts to restore the systems themselves? She asked. Many attempts. All failures. Yunji changed the display to show technical data. They are trying to reverse engineer our technology, but they do not understand the underlying principles. Their engineers are copying our designs without knowing why they work. So they cannot simply rebuild what we took away? No. Our technology was not just advanced, it was integrated. Every system connected to every other system. Take away the human components, and nothing works together anymore. The president nodded. And their military response? Yunji's expression grew darker. Some factions have tried to attack human colonies, hoping to force our return. The results have been educational. She showed footage from the Battle of New Busan, where a desperate Corvani fleet had attacked a human farming colony. The colonists' defense platforms had destroyed the entire alien fleet in less than an hour. The Corvani had discovered that human military technology, no longer limited by council regulations, was far more advanced than they had realized. They thought we were weak because we followed their laws, the president said. They never understood that we were choosing to limit ourselves. Exactly. Now they know the truth. But it may be too late. On the research station Harmony, Dr. Youngmi Han was documenting the final collapse of the Nethys collective. What had once been a unified species of billions was now fragments of confused individuals. She watched through observation windows as Nethys beings wandered the corridors alone. Some sat in corners, rocking back and forth. Others tried desperately to touch other Nethys, hoping to restore their mental connection. A few had simply stopped moving entirely, their minds unable to cope with individual existence. Doctor? Her assistant Dong-hyun called. We are receiving a transmission from the Nethys home world. Young Mai activated the communication system. The screen showed chaos. Nethys cities, once perfectly organized by the collective mind, were in ruins. Individuals who had never had to think for themselves were starving because they did not know how to find food. Others fought each other over resources, having lost the shared cooperation that had made their species great. A single Nethys appeared on screen, one of the few who had managed to adapt to individual consciousness. Its voice was desperate. Human scientists, it said. We beg you to help us. Our people are dying. The young ones do not know how to eat. The old ones cannot understand why the voices in their heads have stopped. We will give you anything. Please, just restore the neural stabilizers. Young Mai felt pity for the creature, but she remembered her orders. Observe, document, do not interfere. I am sorry, she said. That technology is no longer available. The Nethys on screen began to cry, a sound like breaking glass. Then we are doomed. Our species will die. Young Mi ended the transmission. She sat quietly for a long time, thinking about what she had witnessed. An entire civilization was ending, not from war or disaster, but from their own choices. The Nethys had voted to expel humanity from the Council. They had supported taking control of human military forces. They had agreed that humans were too dangerous to be trusted. Now they were facing the consequences of those decisions. On Karathi, Governor Byung-ho Choi was dealing with a new problem. The alien refugees around his settlement were becoming desperate. Some had tried to steal supplies. Others had attempted to break into the human facility to access their technology. Sir, his security chief reported, we caught another group trying to access our power systems. They were led by a Velkari engineer who claimed she could fix their ships if she could study our generators. "What did you tell her?" Byung-ho asked. "The same thing we tell them all. Our technology is too dangerous for aliens to handle. We would not want to risk hurting them." Byung-ho almost smiled at the irony. Those were the same words the aliens had used to justify taking control of human systems. A message arrived on his desk. It was from former Chancellor Veltar herself. She was offering incredible wealth for just basic technical support, rare metals worth more than entire star systems, ancient artifacts from long-dead civilizations, even territorial concessions that would give humans control of entire sectors. "She is getting desperate," his advisor noted. "They all are," Byung-ho replied. "But desperation does not erase the past. They called us children. They said we needed guidance. Now they want us to fix their problems?" He deleted the message without responding. 1 year had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. War Marshal Kethvar of the Skreth stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching another Corvani world burn beneath him, his serpentine body coiled with satisfaction as orbital bombardments turned proud cities into smoking ruins. "How many worlds have we taken this month?" he asked his lieutenant. 17, War Marshal. The Corvani cannot defend themselves. Their weapons do not work, their ships cannot fly, and their communications are dead," Kethvar hissed with pleasure. For centuries, the Skreth had been contained by Corvani military might. The proud blue-skinned warriors had kept the Skreth locked in their home sector, unable to expand their empire. But now the Corvani were helpless children, and the Skreth were free to take revenge. "Continue the advance," Kethvar ordered. "Show no mercy. The Corvani called themselves our masters for too long." What had once been the mighty Corvani Empire was now a scattered collection of dying worlds. Their great fleets floated dead in space. Their fortress worlds fell one by one to Skreth attacks. A civilization that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was being wiped out because they could not maintain their own technology without human help. Captain So-Ra Lee received the distress calls every day now. Her colony ship New Sol had become a beacon of hope for desperate refugees. Every morning brought new messages from alien governments, offering everything they had for just basic assistance. "Captain," her communications officer said, "we have another message from the Velkari Chancellor. She is offering us complete control of 3 star systems in exchange for communication network repairs." Sora read the message on her screen. 3 star systems, billions of people, vast resources and ancient knowledge, all for fixing some communication relays that would take a human engineer maybe a week to repair. "What should I tell her?" the officer asked. Sora thought about her orders. No aid to alien governments, no assistance with infrastructure, no help with technology. Let them solve their own problems. "Tell her we will consider her offer," Sora said. "In about 50 years, when we have time to think about it." The officer looked surprised. 50 years? The Galactic Council told us we were too young and immature to make important decisions quickly, Sora explained with a cold smile. "We are just being careful and thoughtful as they taught us." On Terra Nova Colony, engineer Woo Jin Kim was designing the new settlement's defense systems. Unlike the old days when humans had to follow council regulations, he could now build whatever he wanted. The weapons platforms he was creating were far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. "Sir," his assistant asked, "why are we building such powerful defenses? The nearest alien world is months away, and they cannot even launch ships anymore." Woo Jin looked up from his plans. "Because when this is all over, when their civilizations have collapsed completely, some of them will blame us for their failures. They will come looking for revenge. But they cannot fight us. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Now, yes, but desperate people do desperate things. Better to be ready." As he worked, Woo Jin received reports from across human space. Every human colony was strengthening its defenses and expanding its capabilities. Free from council restrictions, human technology was advancing at incredible speed. New inventions appeared weekly. Breakthrough discoveries happened monthly. The aliens had always claimed that human progress was too fast, too dangerous. They had tried to slow humanity down with regulations and oversight. Now, with those limits gone, they were seeing what human innovation really looked like. The breaking point came when the Nethys Collective finally died completely. Dr. Youngmi Han watched from her research station as the last functioning Nethys worlds went silent. The species that had existed as one unified mind for thousands of years had fragmented into billions of confused individuals who could not survive on their own. Doctor, her assistant Dong Hyun reported, all Nethys communication networks are down. We are detecting no organized activity from any of their worlds. Young Mai nodded sadly. She had been documenting the collapse for months. Individual Nethys simply could not function alone. They had evolved to be part of a collective mind. Take away that connection, and they became like children who had never learned to walk. How many do we estimate survived? She asked. Maybe 1% of their population. The ones who were already somewhat independent, or who managed to form small groups. Young Mi made her final report on the Nethys Collective. Once, they had been one of the galaxy's major powers. They had controlled hundreds of worlds and commanded vast fleets. They had been among the loudest voices calling for human expulsion from the Council. Now they were extinct. On Earth, President Mi Sun Kang was reading similar reports from across the galaxy. Species after species was falling into chaos or extinction. The Galactic Council, which had once claimed to represent thousands of civilizations, now had fewer than 100 functioning governments. Ma'am, her advisor, General Park Soo-jin, said, we are receiving reports that some alien factions are attempting to attack our outer colonies. They seem to believe that if they can capture human settlements, they can force us to return. How? Successful have they been? The president asked. Not at all. The attack on New Busan resulted in the complete destruction of the alien fleet. The assault on Terra Prima lasted less than an hour before the attackers surrendered. The president was not surprised. During their time in the Council, humans had been required to limit their military technology to levels that would not threaten galactic peace. But now, freed from those restrictions, human colonies were protected by weapons systems that were decades ahead of anything the aliens could field. Any casualties on our side? She asked. None. Our defensive systems are so advanced that the alien weapons cannot even reach our shields. The president felt a mix of satisfaction and regret. She was glad that human colonies were safe, but she took no pleasure in the one-sided nature of these conflicts. The aliens were not evil, just foolish and proud. But they had made their choices, and now they lived with the consequences. The most dramatic moment came when former Chancellor Veltar of the Velkari arrived on Earth in person. She came in a ship that barely functioned, its crystal hull cracked and dim. The vessel limped through the Sol system, broadcasting desperate pleas for safe passage. Once, Veltar had commanded fleets of beautiful crystal ships that moved like living art through space. Now she traveled alone in a dying wreck. President Mi Sun Kang received her in the same room where human ambassadors had once prepared for council meetings. The irony was intentional. Veltar looked nothing like the proud chancellor who had expelled humanity from the council. Her crystal body was dull and cracked. Her once musical voice was harsh and broken. She moved like someone carrying a terrible weight. President Kang, she said, struggling to maintain dignity, I have come to negotiate humanity's return to galactic affairs. Have you? The president replied calmly. I thought we were too dangerous for galactic affairs, too aggressive, too unpredictable. Veltar flinched at having her own words thrown back at her. We may have misjudged the situation. Misjudged? The president's voice was ice. You stripped us of our voting rights. You demanded control of our military. You called us children who needed guidance. The galaxy is dying without you, Veltar said desperately. Billions are dead. Entire species are extinct. Civilizations that lasted for millennia are gone forever. And whose fault is that? Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Around the room, holographic displays showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked dead civilizations. Yellow areas indicated collapsing governments. Only the green zones around human space showed stability and growth. Ours, she admitted finally. It is our fault. We were wrong about humans. Were you? The president leaned forward. What exactly were you wrong about? Everything. Veltar's voice broke. You were not too young. You were not too aggressive. You were not too dangerous. She paused, struggling with the words. You were too important. We needed you more than we needed our pride. The president studied the broken alien before her. This was the being who had led the vote to expel humanity, who had called humans barbarians, who had claimed that the galaxy would be better off without human interference. "What are you offering?" the president asked. "Anything. Everything. Complete human authority over all galactic affairs. Recognition of human superiority. Dissolution of the old council and creation of a human-led government. In exchange for? Save what is left, please. There are still billions of innocent beings who will die if this continues." The president was quiet for a long time. She thought about all the humans who had been dismissed and insulted over the centuries, all the contributions that had been ignored or stolen, all the times alien arrogance had put human lives at risk. But she also thought about her duty as a leader, not just to humans, but to all sentient life. "I will consider your proposal," she said finally. "But understand this. If humanity returns to galactic affairs, it will be on human terms. Complete human terms. The age of alien supremacy is over." Veltar nodded eagerly. "Yes, anything you say. Humans will lead and we will follow." "You may go," the president said. "We will contact you with our decision." 2 years had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Admiral Jinwoo Nam stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at what remained of the galaxy. Where once thousands of civilizations had thrived, now only scattered, settlements survived in the darkness between dead worlds. The great spiral arms that had glowed with the lights of countless cities were now mostly dark. Entire sectors had gone silent. The Corvani Empire was extinct, wiped out by Skreth forces. The Nethys Collective had collapsed into madness. The Velkari crystal cities lay dark and lifeless across 100 worlds. "Admiral," his aide captain, Eugene Kim reported, "the final refugee convoy has arrived at Processing Station Alpha. Director Yoon is requesting your presence for the evaluation ceremony." Jinwoo nodded. Today would mark the beginning of a new age. After 2 years of watching the galaxy burn, humanity was finally ready to act. But this time, they would act as rulers, not as partners. On Terra Prima, Director Sang-Ho Yoon oversaw the largest refugee processing center in human space. Millions of aliens from dozens of species waited in organized camps, hoping for acceptance into the Human Colonial Authority's protection programs. The camps were clean and efficient, with adequate food, shelter, and medical care. But they were also clearly temporary. Large signs in multiple languages explained the rules. Admission to human protection zones requires complete acceptance of human authority. Former political leaders and military officers are not eligible. All applicants must demonstrate useful skills or knowledge. Sang-Ho watched as processing teams evaluated each group of refugees. The teams were led by humans, but included aliens who had already been accepted into the program. These aliens wore special badges marking them as associated citizens of the PAR, Human Colonial Authority. "Director," his assistant reported, "the Velkari delegation is requesting special consideration. They claim to have valuable crystal-growing technology." Sang-Ho looked at the group of Velkari refugees. They were a pitiful sight compared to their former glory. Their crystal bodies were cracked and dull, their once proud bearing broken by months of struggle and starvation. "What do they offer?" he asked. "Complete technical specifications for crystal matrix construction. They say it will advance human technology by decades." Sang-Ho considered this. The Velkari had always jealously guarded their crystal secrets. For them to offer this, knowledge showed how desperate they had become. "Accept them," he decided. "But make it clear that they will work under human supervision. Their knowledge belongs to humanity now." The Velkari refugees wept with relief when they heard the decision. They would live, but as subjects of the human colonial authority, not as equals. On Earth, Dr. Youngmi Han had been appointed head of the new Xenological Integration Department. Her job was to study alien psychology and culture, determining how different species could best serve in the new human-dominated galaxy. Working with cultural liaison Nam Ju Song, she had developed integration protocols for each surviving species. The protocols were designed to be fair but firm. Aliens could live and work in human space, but they would do so under human law and human oversight. The key, she explained to her staff, is to give them purpose without giving them power. They need to feel useful, but they must never forget who is in charge. Her reports showed remarkable success rates. Alien populations that had been chaotic and desperate in the refugee camps became productive and stable once integrated into human-controlled settlements. The structure and leadership they had lost when their governments collapsed was replaced by human authority. "Doctor," Namju asked during one of their meetings, "what about the species that resist integration? The ones who still believe they should be independent?" Young Mi pulled up files on her computer. "We have identified several groups that refuse to accept human authority. Remnants of the old Corvani military. Some Skreth warlords who think they can rebuild their empire. A few Velkari nobles who believe they deserve special treatment. What do we do with them?" "Nothing. We let them try to survive on their own. When they fail, they can apply for refugee status like everyone else. But they go to the back of the line." The philosophy was simple, but effective. Cooperation brought prosperity and protection. Resistance brought isolation and eventual failure. The turning point came with the coronation of Emperor Tae-ho Kim. The ceremony took place on New Nexus, a massive space station built in human space to replace the old Galactic Council headquarters. Unlike the ancient crystal and metal structure of the original Nexus Prime, New Nexus was built with pure human technology. It gleamed with polished surfaces and flowing lines that spoke of advanced engineering. Representatives from over 300 species attended the ceremony. Some came as honored guests from species that had quickly embraced human leadership. Others came as defeated refugees hoping to earn a place in the new order. Tae-ho stood before the assembled beings, no longer the dismissed ambassador who had left the council 2 years ago. He wore robes that combined human elegance with symbols of authority from across the galaxy. On his head sat a crown made from Velkari crystal, Corvani metal, and human diamonds, a symbol that all the galaxy's treasures now served humanity. 2 years ago, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "You told us we were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous to be trusted with power." The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Many remembered those words. "You were right," Tae-ho continued, surprising them. "We were dangerous. Dangerous to your comfortable corruption. Dangerous to your lazy leadership. Dangerous to your arrogant assumption that you knew better than the species that actually kept your civilization running." Murmurs ran through the crowd, but no one dared object. "You stripped us of our rights and demanded control of our military. You thought you could use us as tools while treating us as children? When we refused, you celebrated our departure. You thought you had rid yourselves of a problem." Tae-ho paused, letting his words sink in. "Instead, you rid yourselves of the foundation that held your civilization together. Without human engineers, your technology failed. Without human logistics, your trade collapsed. Without human innovation, you stagnated. Without human protection, you fell to your enemies." The chamber was completely silent now. Today begins a new age, an age where those who are capable lead and those who are not follow. An age where contribution matters more than tradition and competence matters more than pride. He gestured to the assembled crowd. "You are welcome in this new galaxy. All of you. But you will serve humanity, not rule alongside it. You will contribute to our civilization, not demand equality with it. You will be grateful for our protection, not resentful of our authority." The coronation ceremony concluded with representatives from major alien species formally swearing allegiance to the human empire. Some did so eagerly, grateful for stability after years of chaos. Others did so reluctantly, but they did so nonetheless. Captain So-Ra Lee, now Admiral Lee, watched the ceremony from the command deck of her flagship. She commanded the Imperial fleet that would patrol the new order, ensuring that trade routes stayed open and that rebellious factions stayed contained. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving confirmation from all sectors. The integration protocols are working, crime is down, productivity is up, and there have been no major rebellions in the past month." Sora nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy was healing under human leadership, not quickly and not without scars, but it was healing. "What about the holdout sectors?" she asked, "still refusing human authority. But their populations continue to decline. We estimate most will collapse within the year." Sora felt a moment of sadness for the beings who would die because of their leader's pride, but she hardened her heart. The galaxy had tried independence from human guidance. The results spoke for themselves. On Earth, Dr. Heijin Park sat in his laboratory, now old and gray but still brilliant. He was working on the next generation of human technology, advances that would have been impossible under the old council's regulations. His assistant, a young woman named Su-min, brought him reports from across the galaxy. "Professor, the integration is ahead of schedule. Alien populations are adapting to human leadership faster than we predicted." "Of course they are," Heijin said with a tired smile. "They need leadership. They always did. We just finally stopped pretending they could lead themselves." He looked out the window at the bustling city below. Earth had become the center of a new galactic civilization, one built on human principles of innovation, efficiency, and merit. "Professor," Su-min asked, "do you think we did the right thing, letting so many civilizations collapse before we stepped in?" Heijin was quiet for a long moment. "They made their choice," he said finally. "We offered partnership, and they chose dominance. We offered cooperation, and they chose control. We offered equality, and they chose superiority." He turned back to his work. "When someone tells you they do not want your help, believe them. When they tell you they think you are inferior, believe them. When they tell you they would be better off without you, let them prove it. And if they cannot prove it, then they learn what they have lost, and if they are smart, they accept what they must do to get it back."